Markets are in full-blown panic mode right now. Trillions of dollars have been wiped out, and we know that hedge funds are liquidating at record speeds. Many investors are also bracing for a recession, but is this fear justified? I don't think so, because while most are running for the exit, trying to get out as fast as possible, there is also data flashing, signaling that opportunity is forming amidst all of this chaos. So in this video, we'll break down the data, the risks, and what it all means for crypto and for you, most importantly. So stay tuned. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jessica. I'm so happy you're here with me today. And without further ado, let us get into this video and what is going on in the economy. Okay, we're gonna glance at Bitcoin as we do. Nothing too exciting or new going on. Although we are a bit higher, we are seeing a higher price than yesterday by about $2,000, which isn't all too extraordinary or different. But that said, we know that we're still in this transitionary period, as President Trump put it and Scott Bessent. We know we've inherited a really bad economy due to the Biden administration, which I know you've probably heard if you've been listening to the news, or if you haven't, it's all over the news. So anyway, all in all, I think Bitcoin is doing well considering all, and I know Bitcoin is going to go up to the millions of dollars here in the very short future. And in the meantime, definitely at least significantly higher, up to at least 100K here soon. So we just have to be patient. It just is what it is. Like anything else in life, it's not always lovely and, you know, a perfect stroll in the park, as they put it. But, you know, things go up and down, and it's just normal. So let's keep moving on. As you can see, the altcoins look pretty bullish today, so not so bad in the altcoin market. But is it time to be buying more altcoins? We'll get into that and some theories in a moment, so let's keep going. But all right, let us start off today's video and research with an excerpt from Kobesi letter on X. And they point out the fact, as I mentioned in my intro, that hedge funds are selling at historic rates. And according to Kobesi letter, and I'll read here, they say hedge funds sold global stocks at their fastest pace in 4 years on March 7th and 10th. Not even the 2020 bear market recorded such a sharp reduction in exposure. Now, if we just read this right off the bat, it seems so bearish and so horrible. And you're wondering, like, Jessica, why are you bringing me such bad news? But this is where I'm going to comment on this, because as you can see highlighted on the screen, the majority of transactions were selling of long positions. Now, what does that mean? That means an investor believes a price is going to keep going up, and so they put in a long, right? So it's a sentiment call, right? It's what they believe based off of market sentiment. Basically, the market's doing good. Oh, everything's doing good. Oh, I believe in this company. So considering the market's doing good and I believe in this company and it has a track record of doing good, I'm going to bet that it's going to continue to do good, right? Well, considering we're in the middle of a major cease war negotiation between Ukraine and Russia, we know that Ukraine has agreed to the ceasefire, but now we know the ball is in Putin's court, which we'll also just glance at here towards the end of the video. And Putin is now listing out a bunch of conditions. If you go to YouTube or if you go check out the news, or maybe you already heard this, you would know that Putin wrote in several conditions, right? And so we know that, long story short, we are in the middle of historic negotiations for a war that is huge and very sad and in many ways unwarranted, but it happened. So anyway, considering there's so much turmoil in the market as of now, but keep in mind that whoever was going to go negotiate peace talks with Putin on this ceasefire, that happened like yesterday. I don't know what time or day that would be for you, depending on where you are in the world, but this is happening in real time. So we don't know the answer to that. And according to my last studies, my last research, Putin said that he is going to be hopping on a call with Trump. Like, that should be happening now. And we know that Donald Trump is a deal maker, President Trump, sorry. And so we know he's having conversations, guys. Like, come on, like, we're not dumb, right? We're not children. Like, he's a deal maker. We know that. A lot of conversations happen behind the scenes. Just because what we see on the news, that doesn't mean that's the first time it's being discussed. So we know, I know, that's what my gut instinct tells me. Like, I know he's working it out behind the scenes and I know it's going to get settled. So we just need that news. We need it handled. And all of this negative market sentiment could end in a flash. So we need to understand, and I want you to have that lens as I go through these next bits of data, because it's all in light of market sentiment. That's what the market is. It responds to market sentiment. So what we see here of like, oh, historic, liquidations in the stock market, and the majority of transactions, as I have highlighted here, were selling of long positions. Well, obviously, because the market right now is uncertain. So of course, all these investors are closing out their bets on the stocks doing better, right? Obviously. So I take this in perspective, and we're not going to get terrified by it. We're going to keep moving forward. That said, as Benjamin Cohen points out here as well, and he writes, economic papers, CEO and founder at ITC Crypto, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So he's educated, but now keep in mind that anytime you see a chart, no matter who shares it, it's always based off of historical data. And for starters, crypto doesn't have, well, maybe now is starting to have enough historical data for patterns to start to be more reliable. But we know that we are living through a bull market that, with conditions like we've never seen ever in the whole entire world, not even the stock market will mirror historic patterns completely, because we've never seen these conditions ever in history, like ever. The mass adoption, like, oh my gosh, a whole crypto cabinet, bullish cabinet surrounding President Trump. So many countries all over the world adopting Bitcoin. You've seen my past videos. Companies are buying Bitcoin at historic rates, completely unprecedented. Like, there will be a Bitcoin supply shock. And the altcoins, they follow Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin goes up tremendously, it's going to bring the whole altcoin market with them. So what we see on the screen here, don't get terrified by it either, because what Benjamin points out is that basically right now the S&P, the SPX rejected at the same spot it did in 1998. Great. Which basically means that the market may potentially drop another 20%. So anyway, we will keep moving on. This is if the market responds and reacts as it has historically. Keep in mind, conditions are very different right now. So we'll keep moving on. But I'm just sharing with you with the general sort of idea and conception of where the market's going. That's what I'm sharing with you, because I do find it also to be my responsibility to at least share this with you. So anyway, moving on now, here we have some perspective. Thank goodness we have Ryan Dietrich here, who's Chief Marketing Specialist at Carson Group LLC. And he shares with us how this has happened. Like, the correction we're seeing in the stock market and therefore in the crypto market has happened just about 50% of the time in the last 46 years. You can see here, this has happened 24 times in the past 46 years. So nothing new or novel, right? It's happened before. So right now, the market sentiment is this, basically, that no matter what happens, because we know that there's the FOMC meeting and announcements from the Fed on monetary policy on the 19th. And we know that the market always reacts on this day. And as of right now, there's some favorable data rolling out on how the market's doing. We know that inflation's coming down, but we know gas is coming down. We know a lot of things are looking much more favorable, but we also know that the US's debt in general right now is at all-time highs. Debt data on how many jobs, people are holding. So many Americans, and maybe you're seeing this in your life, so many people are having to work multiple jobs, which is not good. It speaks of inflation. So we know that we inherited a very bad economic situation in the market. And so despite all the amazing that Trump and his administration's accomplishing and so fast, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're digging yourself out of a hole, even if you advance a lot, like if you're in a crater, you're still in a crater. So the market obviously is not doing very well right now. But anyway, the point is with what you see on the screen here, also shared by Kobesi letter, is that right now, if CPI data inflation comes in lower than expected on the FOMC announcement day on the 19th, then the market will sell stocks and everyone's going to think we're entering into a recession. Now, I don't believe we're entering into a recession. I do not. So I can be quoted on this and maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't because I do follow the market extremely closely and I don't think so. Two, CPI. If CPI inflation data comes in higher than expected, then we can expect investors to sell their stocks again, rate cuts will be canceled most likely. Now, if CPI inflation data comes in as expected, then people might still sell their stocks and inflation will be considered not to be falling. So anyway, sentiment right now is definitely fearful in the market. We know this, but remember, things could change on the fly, like literally with news that Russia will cease fire, the market will pump. Just watch, like the market will rally and then all of a sudden, oh, great times. Not only that, now this is my speculation, so I am speaking into the future, so to speak, but I also believe that Trump is having conversations with Jerome Powell behind the scenes. That just makes sense. Like it just literally makes sense. And I believe that Jerome Powell will cut rates. I'd be so tremendously shocked if he doesn't. But let's see. Let's see how this plays out. But I have a feeling he's gonna otherwise, mark my words, there will be a way somehow in which Jerome Powell is removed from his position. I know the Fed is not part of the government. So technically, President Trump can't remove him or fire him. But there are ways, guys. There are ways. I mean, don't you find it funny that President Trudeau in Canada just stepped down? I don't know all the details there, but why would he randomly step down? So there are ways of creating pressure, which we know Trump is already doing in the economy through this whole tariff situation. So there are ways. So mark my words, I believe I will be so surprised if Jerome Powell comes out and is like, nope, we're not cutting rates. Trump can just replace the US dollar, fiat, the actual paper, with saying he could just work out a deal with Tether. Trust me, I can see this coming. And then all of a sudden be like, announcement, American people, we're going to start, using USDT, digital money. And he'll drop some incentive, everyone, he'll make it easy. And then all of a sudden the Fed will, I don't know, they'll be, the power will be removed from under them, an actual rug. Anyway, that's me really speaking, just off the top of my head, based off of what I could see happening. But it's worth mentioning because it's possible. So the Fed, as an independent business, doesn't want to lose business. And they're already at risk with that, with digital, with the USDT and USDC. They're already rivals to paper money. So anyway, there are ways, guys. There are ways. So I stay unbelievably bullish. But moving on, just skimming over this quickly. This was shared by Zero Hedge, who's actually a great account on X as well. And he quotes a statement by Bank of America's global researcher that says, basically, long story short, that Doge, Department of Government Efficiency being led by Elon, is desperately needed as the alternative is catastrophe. So this is what he says. The global handoff from big government to the free market may prove slippery or hard, right? That's what we're seeing happen right now. But it seems necessary given large deficits and bloated debt burdens. Economic growth has been enabled by unsustainable government support and protectionist policy. It may take time. So guys, hello, transitionary period, so just hang tight. It may take time for the private sector job growth to accelerate, for government workers to resettle, for broader-based corporate profits to rise, and for global trade to find a new equilibrium. In our view, the likely productive gains from a market-based economic reboot are greater than its risks. So we're basically in a position where we have to take on this risk because if we don't, the US was going down and down very, very fast. And all of the world's currencies were going down with it. So he goes on to say, and the risks from unsustainable status quo of debt-financed, tepid, and narrow economic growth are severe. So basically, we should be extremely grateful to Elon Musk for stepping up. He's not even being paid for all this work that he's doing. He's probably self-funding it to some large extent. I'd be so, like, I don't know. I don't know, like, if he's self-funding it or not. But I know his company is obviously taking a hit because now people are burning Cybertrucks and Teslas. That's not right or fair, but you can't blame the people either because people don't like change and they see what they see in the media and they listen to their families and their close friends. And that's why it's so important to share this information, not just help me share and promote my channel just because, but because I do a lot of research to make sure that I bring you the other side of the coin, and it's important to educate people because otherwise, like if you don't know, then you don't know and you act out of what you know. So it's very important to stay educated and plugged in. So anyway, I thought that was wonderful, like a wonderful reaffirming comment and statement from someone reputable, like a researcher from Bank of America, to back what Elon Musk is doing because he's taking a lot of heat for all of us. Okay, so now we're going to zoom in on this a little bit more. So this was shared by Matthew Boyle, who is a Washington Bureau chief, Breitbart News Network graduate of all these universities, right? So anyway, he says, new and exclusive. So Secretary Scott Bessent told me at the US Treasury tonight that the entire Donald Trump administration is working all hands on deck from all areas of government to bring down inflation and prices. Elon Musk, he said, is cutting the wasteful government overspending. He mentioned Secretary Rawlins' effort to bring down egg prices. He said Secretary Burgum and Secretary Wright are working to unleash American energy. Bessent told me Biden left a mess for Trump. We know this. We inherited an affordability crisis, but Bessent and Trump is already showing signs of beginning to pull the US out of the Biden death spiral. We know gas prices, for instance, are already down. Bessent said, on inflation, we are seeing some nascent signs, I'd say. So like the beginning of good signs. Crude oil is down about 15% since President Trump took office. That's something we're focused on. Mortgage rates have come down every week since he's been in office. Amazing. We know that there's like so many new factory jobs too. I don't have the data here for you, but like thousands of new jobs every week. Whereas before in Biden's administration, it was like negative. Like people were losing up, people were losing up to 1,000 jobs in the factory sector a week, something like that. Like, don't quote me, go do your own research always. But so we have like amazing change already happening. So Bessent also told me, he said, the establishment media is far more inaccurate and worse than he ever imagined. Oh my gosh. He also went on to say, when I was on the other side of the wall, I never really liked the term fake news. Now that I'm on the inside, I can see what they're reporting. I think the term fake news probably isn't strong enough. It's really not. And we all knew this, right? We knew like there was already a general consensus like most people had on the news. That's why nobody was tuning into it anymore. Like which news is it? Which is it, like CNBC or somebody like is up for sale right now? I think Elon was joking before he took on Doge. He was joking of buying it because it was failing. Like there are not so many people tuning in to traditional media anymore. And that's why you see the rise of independent media, which is fantastic, like my channel. Anyways, so with some more continuation of where we are in the market, we see that according to Copesi letter as well, February PPI inflation fell, the data that was reported fell to 3.2%, below the expectations of 3.3%. And we know that core PPI inflation data, fell to 3.4%, below expectations of 3.6%. So both CPI and PPI inflation both just fell more than expected in February. So inflation is cooling again. So that's good. That's good. Like this is what needs to happen in order for the Fed to cut rates. So here we have information on the CME group. So this is where we can track in how many days the FOMC meeting is. I'd encourage you to bookmark this or follow this regularly. It's cmegroup.com because you'll see all the news here reported. So anyway, it's coming up soon, guys, in 5 days. And we know, as I covered, and I've been covering and will continue to cover, we know that we have so many really wealthy, really big whales buying Bitcoin massively, which is a very bullish signal. And this is the signal you actually need to pay attention to, because these people, if they're super wealthy and they're holding a ton of Bitcoin, it's for a reason. Like, they're educated, they're in the know-how, and this is how you become financially free. Like, this is how you become extremely successful. You have to follow what big whales are doing. And then regarding what I was mentioning earlier in the video, like, okay, so if it's a good time to be buying Bitcoin, does this mean it's a good time also to be buying altcoins? Because we see that the altcoin market is up. It's been up a little bit. Well, it really comes down to what phase we're in. Miles Deutscher here breaks it down into 3 phases, as you can see in the chart. So there's the downtrend phase, the accumulation phase, which you could arguably say Bitcoin is in right now. It's sideways trending, and then you have upward trending. So you definitely don't want to buy when we're on the downward trend. If you see that, if you zoom out and the chart is going down, like, it's not a good time to buy, because you just don't know how much more it's going to go down. So why would you buy it like at a price when it may be cheaper later, right? So you don't do that yet, because also you want to make sure that a project goes into an accumulation phase, because it speaks of stability. So unless it survives an accumulation phase, like, don't buy it at all. Next, so accumulation price is basically like an observation time. And then once it starts to settle, usually this is a good sign. But when it comes into uptrend, you want to catch it as soon as it does start to trend up, so long as it checks the boxes. Okay, now I am spending a lot of time behind the scenes on finishing my course. I'm just putting a lot of detail into it, although it will be a 5-day course, guys. So in 5 days, you'll learn literally from like an insider's perspective. It won't be like a scholastic, like really sort of, techie, hard to understand course. It'll be very practical, and you'll start investing from day one. So maybe it's good for somebody in your life. So anyway, once it starts to trend up, so long as it checks the boxes, as I was saying, and I'm going to teach this in my course on how to do due diligence on a project, like how to know if it's worth investing into. So it has to check specific criteria, like on the team, the token economics, et cetera, et cetera. So once, and assuming it checks all those boxes and it starts to move into the uptrend, like, you need to act very, very fast. Anyway, let's keep moving on and keep that in mind, or take a screenshot of this so you know how to think of things in this when we go into the parabolic phase, which I will tell you on my channel once we've entered. And okay, a last piece of very juicy data is that we know global liquidity just had a golden cross pattern, which signals to Bitcoin popping off from here. This is where we are. So it may be happening in real time, guys, but let's see. And we know it all in large part depends on what happens between this next conversation between Putin and Trump. And we know it's a delicate one, so I'd encourage you to pray if you believe in a higher power, because it does work. But either way, we need to wait to see what happens here. I believe a deal will be reached. It may not be overnight, but it will happen soon. It will. And what is being negotiated right now is very, very normal. Of course, Zelensky thinks that Russia is just playing like games and doesn't actually want to settle, and like, just because Putin has conditions. It's actually a very long video. You can search it on YouTube, but Putin explains in detail, right? Like his concerns on NATO's expansion, making sure that Ukraine also doesn't like use this ceasefire 30 days time frame to like ramp up its weapons, because also like Ukraine has conquered some areas on the Russian border. So it's a mess, guys, but at least they're talking. That's always the beginning. If you're not even talking to your enemy, then that's not good. But the minute conversations start and general terms start to be discussed on the same wavelength, the rest is details. So we should definitely be praying for Donald Trump. I will say it, because it's all the countries of the world are connected. So we all suffer when situations like this break out. But anyway, guys, that's a wrap for today's video. It's a wrap for this week's content. I will be back here on Monday to review what's going on in the market, my analysis on it, and share all research and data that I find relevant for you to know. So that said, enjoy your weekend, rest, take care of yourself, take care of your mind, take care of your body. And I will be back here to see you guys soon. Bye.